Thank you for your statement. I now call on representative of the African Rights Monitor. You have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, the root cause of violence and human rights abuses, crimes can vary from one conflict to another. It may happen for historic, ethnic, religious, economic, or colonial reasons. The Somali region, also known as the Ogaden, is one of the 9 states in Ethiopia. This territory is practically under martial law and is a war zone fought between the Ethiopian government forces, including special local militias, and the ONLF, the Ogaden National Liberation Front. The fighting has escalated since April 2007, when the rebels attacked the Ethiopian army guarding an oil facility run by foreign companies. Since then, that is in 2007, the government sealed off the Ogaden and expelled human rights organizations such as the ICRC and MSF. Furthermore, it banned trade and aid from the area, claiming that the region is restricted due to a military operation. Ever since, extrajudicial killings, rape, detention, and forceful relocation and confiscation of private properties have become a daily practice in the Somali regional state. In the case of Ogaden, it is important to mention the historical dimension of this conflict. The Ogaden was claimed by the British, the French, then by Italy, and finally by Ethiopia. Since then, successive Ethiopian governments, including the current government, have treated the Somalis as a negligible minority who have no rights whatsoever in their own land. The Somalis are marginalized and their territory used as exploration sites for oil, dividing it into 22 blocks. Although the current Ethiopian government recognizes the right of self-determination in its constitution and many other democratic rights, in practice its rule is contrary to what it has put in legislation and constitution. We, as the African Rights Monitor, we recommend that the Ethiopian government stop all human rights violation and allow the United Nations full access to investigate these violations. Lift the embargo on trade and aid in Ogaden. Stop using the military and paramilitary forces to collectively punish the civilian population. We also recommend both the Ethiopian government and the Ogaden National Liberation Front to start the peace talks mediated by the Kenyan government and find a just solution to the conflict that will be sustainable and viable. We also recommend the Forum, the United Nations Human Rights Organization, and the international community to give attention to the Ogaden conflict and take measures that can save lives and bring peace as it has done in other parts of Africa and the world. Lack of UN engagement and interest in resolving the Ogaden conflict has given those who are committing crimes in Ogaden a carte blanche and an incentive to act with impunity. Thank you very much.
Intervention. I now call the representative of the Ogaden Youth and Student Union. You have the floor.
I'd like to draw this forum's attention to the bleak situation of Somalis in the Ogaden, who are one of the poorest, least educated, most persecuted, downtrodden and disenfranchised ethnic group in the state of Ethiopia. In the Ogaden, sexual violence isn't just a consequence of conflict, but rather a deliberate military strategy employed by the Ethiopian government. It is used as a systematic combat tool to dismantle the family unit and displace Ogadeni civilians. Women flee from their homes as a result of alienation and exploitation, resulting in the increased fragmentation of entire communities. Women are viewed as the emblem of a community's cultural and spiritual values in the Ogaden. Thus, an attack on the female is an attack on her society. Human rights abuses of all kinds not only affect the victims, but indeed anyone affiliated with the victims. In other words, not only are women having to deal with violence inflicted upon them specifically, but they often bear the burden of dealing with family members who are also victims of Ethiopia's brutal war, an illegally imprisoned elderly mother, a missing husband, and hungry children, for instance. Women are left to raise children alone without any support when the armies murder their family members. The situation worsens, however, when armies and the militias illegally imprison women, forcing the children to either get by all by themselves or grow up in prison for as long as their mother is detained. Human Rights Watch says, with regard to the impunity of the militias, that security forces can do more or less as they want. They're instructed to act as they wish and to use any means necessary so long as they inflict terror upon the civilians. As a result, they travel around cities, small towns and villages where they burn villages to the ground, kill the elderly and purposely rape women in front of their husbands and families. Women in the Ogaden are subjected to humiliation, degradation and dehumanization when they are routinely raped in front of their fathers, brothers and husbands intentionally, killing them if they protest. We all know that such violation of women erodes the fabric of a community in a way that weapons can't. The reason behind this horrific treatment is to force them into submission and accepting Ethiopia's illegal rule by destroying their resolve to fight, create an atmosphere of fear and to target the most vulnerable, but more importantly to reduce the size of the population by means of ethnic cleansing. The international community as well as the UN and this forum needs to exert pressure on the Ethiopian government to stop its human rights violations against Ogadeni civilians, such as extrajudicial killings and the burning down of entire villages. By monitoring how they use the billions of dollars worth of aid they receive yearly, this aid that is intended for development and for those most in need of it is used to oppress innocent civilians daily. Ethiopia must lift the trade embargo, allow journalists and human rights organizations to work freely in the Ogaden in order to reveal to the rest of the world what the government is trying so hard to conceal. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.